G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for watching my stupid content. I do appreciate you being here. It's Tuesday, it's News Day. This week, we're gonna look at the final rounds of Six Nations Rugby, the World Rugby Rankings. The Super Rugby was in shambles again last week due to COVID, especially in the New Zealand side. And we're gonna have a look at some racism accusations in South Africa. We're gonna have to talk about that, and I'll give you some opinion on my opinion on that. And yeah, hopefully we're not gonna take too long for this news. Let's go through everything quickly. So first, I want to get this out of the way first. Basically this basically like a war kind of going on in the South Africa at the moment. The Eastern Province Rugby Union president MAASDORP was at a funeral. And he basically called that the Springbok logo, this one, racist logo. And as a result, the South African Rugby Union is pressing charges for misconduct against this person. And as a result, there's been like two sides of things. There's people coming out in protest against the South African Rugby Union for doing so. So there's a lot of these things. Like, you know, I know this is a bit of, especially some of you South African guys will tell me that this is a very gentle topic in South Africa in terms of race. Whether or not there's been talks of the Springbok logo being a racist logo. You know what's a racist logo, guys? That's a racist logo right behind me. The Australian flag, okay? That's a racist logo. This country has tried to basically purge the Aborigines community. They tried to purge Asians that was during like from Australia. They did purge Asians from Australia in the early in the early 100 years ago, basically, with the white Australian policy. And it's, you know, that's a racist logo. And I'm to be honest, I have it there because I'm still proud of being Australian. And here's why, right? I have lived in places, so racism is an issue. I mean, you just have to read some of my YouTube comments to see the stuff that I get. And also, in real life, I get a lot worse. But the thing is, I've lived in countries in Asia where race is not an issue. There's no such thing as different race. Everybody's Asian. And people just find different ways, quite frankly, to discriminate each other. Based on, like, stupid things. Based on where you lived, where you grew up, your education level, your political affiliation. You just get discriminated all over the place. It has nothing to do with race, and in some cases a lot worse than race. For example, your family could be ostracized for doing anything, like in business, just because your granddad was affiliated with the wrong political party. Like, that sort of things, right? Horrendous stuff. It has nothing to do with race. So for me, I see racism just like every other discrimination. It's not, I see it as just, you know, I don't see it as, for me personally, not a super huge issue, because I see a lot of different discrimination that's just as horrendous. And I understand that it's, you know, one thing that I do for so-called racism is I want to be different. I don't want it to, you know, promote hate. So I'm happy to have this flag behind me because I'm happy to forgive. For me, it's just like there's so many issues around the world. Just telling people to change your flag, change your logo, it's not gonna change it. It's not gonna make any difference. But for me, I'm happy to be the bigger man to you know, forgive and move on. And for me, I think that's how I kind of approach these things. I think, you know, if I just go and start, you know, telling people this flag is racist, which is, and not trying to really, you know, and not really take the next step and try to forgive, something that I think Nelson Mandela did, you know, really kind of like show the world how it should be done. It's about forgiving He came out wearing a Springbok jersey with the Springbok logo, something that was widely considered racist, to extend the hand to bridge the difference in South Africa. That's something that I think we should do a bit more in the world today, especially when it comes to race. In fact, especially when it comes to all sorts of discriminations, is to kind of, take that step forward and try to bridge the difference. And just instead of just coming out and try to pointing out the difference and say, get rid of it. It's about, for me, it's more about forgiving and moving on and extending that hand, right? But that's my opinion. Let me know your thoughts, especially if you're South Africa. I know the issues are more complicated in South Africa. It's been more entrenched in South Africa. And but like I said, that's a racist symbol right there. But I'm still a proud Australian. I love this country as much as anybody could love their country, I guess. And this people under this flag had a white Australian policy that some people argue murdered a lot of Asian guys to get rid of them from the country. Right there, right? But yeah, let me know your thoughts. That's kind of like how I see it. And so let's talk about rugby. 6 minutes. So rugby, it's on the weekend. Six Nations. Obviously, France beaten the English and advanced ahead of the New Zealand. This is the biggest news. New Zealand has dropped down to 3rd in their world rankings. This is the lowest they've ever been, like tied lowest they've ever been. And also the biggest loss is from Wales for losing to Italy as well. Italy surprisingly didn't move up after beating Wales. I guess the points difference are just too great for them to actually move up a significant margin. And then obviously, as we talked about, Italy beat Wales in Cardiff. Unbelievable results, and this was just huge emotional results for the players. People were in tears, and just really it's about the Italians just wanted it more. Like, despite clearly having the game against them, time were running out. They were able to pull themselves together and just with grit and determination able to score that final beautiful try to put Wales away. And obviously, this was a huge day for Wales as well, like just to more embarrassment in the Welsh side. Alan Wynne-Jones came back after being injured playing New Zealand in November last year. Geordie Barrett caused him to dislocate his shoulder again, and then his return for his historic 150 test match, highest amount of tests played ever in history of rugby. And also this was obviously a huge return for Alan Wynne-Jones to play 60 minutes, only to end up losing to Italy. So yeah, this is not the historical 150 test match that Alan Wynne-Jones wanted to be remembered for. And Pivac obviously under a lot of pressure. People talking about this should have been sacked. He should have been sacked for this game. It did look like there was, for me, looked like there was a preparation issue. The Welsh players did not look like they had a goal when they were out there on the field. It just looked like they were told to go out and win. And you can see it visibly when Wales was ahead, everybody was just like chilling. And then when Italy takes the lead, and you can see this surge of energy for Wales to kind of score points, to get them back south in the lead. Once they do so, you can see that huge slump of energy happening on the field. So I feel like that's a preparation issue. The expectations were not set correctly for the team when they're out on the field. The metrics, the targets, what they call it, KPIs, weren't set appropriately for the players on the field by Pivac. And then also Pivac, after the match, said some very interesting comments that was absolutely slammed by the Welsh media. He basically said that, yeah, we're not happy about this. And he said, if we go to the World Cup 2023 and get to the quarterfinals and onto the semifinals, everyone will be happy. I'm sure if you're a Welsh fan, getting semi-final is not really a happy result. As any rugby fan will tell you, you wanted to win the World Cup. You don't go to the World Cup to become 2nd place or 3rd place or even 4th place. That's not a happy result. So yeah, that's he got slammed quite hard on that in the media. So obviously the Grand Slam for France over England. This was a 12 years in the making for the French team. They were, you know, Fabien Galthie took over the French team in 2009 after the 2019 World Cup. Really turned the team around. Really took a few years now to build the team, and now Grand Slam, 12 years in the making. What a huge result for France. As a result, Galthie's contract has been extended to 2027, and that is, you know, really huge for him and French rugby. So they're gonna be coming to Australia after we take the Bledders Le Cup from them, from France. I guess it will make sense for them to try to take the cup back from Wallabies in 2027 in Australia. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then obviously England has been criticized a lot even going into this game. There had been a lot of changes for the England side. It's two big changes as well. One that, you know, Sir Clive Woodward has criticized England for kind of making a change at fullback, putting George Furbank in. And basically Woodward's assessment of George Furbank was that he's not really a world-class 15 yet. So yeah, that's pretty not a test fullback. So that's a pretty harsh comment from Sir Clive Woodward against, you know, his own countrymen. I thought he did okay, and I thought the obvious strategy for Eddie Jones was to have Freddie Stewart to pressure the high ball on the wing position at number 14, which is what he did. And yeah, so I didn't know. And also, but the one thing I did agree with from Clive Woodward's pre-game assessment was that they should have put Colin Norse at the lock position, considering how well he did against Ireland, despite having a red card against Ireland. So I thought that should have been a guaranteed go. But Eddie Jones resorted to that 3-lock, you know what they call 3-lock, kind of like setup with an extra Colin Norse in blind side. This is basically the Springbok setup. They have 3 locks and having an extra line out option, and they just have basically the lock in the blind side flanker position. You know, in South Africa, the blind side flanker is 7, so in the 7 jersey, but they're technically blind side flanker. But yeah, they put them in the blind side flanker position to give that extra bit of weight in the pack as well. But you know, I thought the Colin Norse should have been the lock position, considering how well the scrum went. And obviously there was talk about Eddie Jones being fired. The RFU has come out and stated that they fully support Eddie Jones going into the Rugby World Cup 2023. So obviously Eddie Jones cited some stats that the Springboks 18 months before the Rugby World Cup was on about 40% win rate, which was true before they won the World Cup. So Eddie Jones is saying that you know, the team is still trying to rebuild, trying to repeat for the Rugby World Cup, and it's not really such a big issue that they're not winning everything as of, you know, 14 months or so out from the Rugby World Cup. And also Eddie Jones is saying that his coaching is 100%. There was some also question about Eddie Jones' coaching, whether he's committed or not, and Eddie Jones basically saying he's 100% doing the best he can. You know, I don't doubt that. You know, there's one man in the world that wants to win the Rugby World Cup more than anybody else in the world, is Eddie Jones. He's won the Rugby World Cup already as an assistant coach with the Springboks in 2007. He has always wanted to win the World Cup as the head coach ever since he was the Wallabies head coach. I have absolutely no doubt he's 100% committed, and his work ethic is like infamous for working overtime to try to achieve his goals. So I have no doubt he's 100% committed, but whether or not he has the right people around him in terms of his coaching stuff to kind of like advise him and give him the right, you know, give him the right directions to put the team forward, that's a different discussion. I do feel like maybe the English kicking game is a bit over-reliant on the kicking game, and at times seems a bit, you know, mindless in doing so. So obviously the other game that was played is Ireland versus Scotland, and Ireland, you know, convincingly beat Scotland on the weekend. So obviously Scotland has had a lot of internal issues with the team going into the match against Ireland. The Townsend has openly come out and admitted that the team is underperforming to their potential, which I do agree. They have so many stars that they should be performing a lot better, and this could just be like an internal culture issue, as we saw the team. Basically, the big news came out before the game was that Finn Russell, the star number 10, many people called him to basically start in the Lions tour last year. It was not selected at number 10. He was on the bench, and it is the result of a bunch of players going out drinking without the permission of the management, and that includes the captain himself. Stuart Hogg. So all of these players went out. Finn Russell was put on the bench. Finn Russell and Tui Pelotu was put on the bench. The other players kind of retained their position. But yeah, this was kind of like a punishment set out towards a lot of these players for going out partying without the permission. I mean, you really do like let your team down, let your country down, doing this sort of stuff. You know, if you're a professional rugby player, I mean, you get paid so much money. It's a lack of respect for your team if you add, you know, for the position, the privileges you're given, if you just, you know, literally taking the piss out of things, right? So yeah, this could be one of the issues that's kind of like holding back Scotland quite a bit. So obviously the week before the referee review came in for the England versus Ireland team, there was a lot of penalties against the Irish scrum, and there has been a lot of discussions on whether or not these scrums were correct. So the Matthew Reynolds did come out and say this week that some of these decisions against Ireland scrummaging was incorrect, that Ellis Genge was potentially wheeling illegally. Nigel Owens wrote in his article that some of the decisions should have gone Ireland's way. It's really hard to see what's going on here, because sometimes when a team kind of gets the dominance, and then if there's a 50-50 or a really close call, the referee will just default to the dominant side. That previously have happened. Just you know, just as kind of like how things go. So it's kind of like, yeah. And one of the things that like what the wheeling that's kind of talk about is that it's not illegal to wheel, but you must go forward first before you wheel the scrum. That's my understanding. And essentially sometimes it's really difficult to tell whether or not the prop has moved forward first before the wheeling starts. So that's kind of like the gray area where it's really difficult for the referee to judge. I mean, in hindsight, if you're watching in slow motion in at home, it's obviously a lot easier to judge, which team, whether a team went for take that step forward first before the wheeling starts. So, you know, you have to give the referee a break on this sort of stuff, I do think. And I mean, it's a lot easier to review the footage and say, that's an illegal wheeling. When you lie on the field, that extra tiny bit of movement could make a difference. It's really difficult to tell for the referee. So I do give the referee a little bit of break here. And also the Wallabies Squad, training squad has been announced. First training squad for 2022. There's a lot of new players. I think there's like seven or eight uncapped players. Obviously, this is a preparation for England coming up in July. England's going to come to Australia for 3 games. The biggest kind of news out of this is the players that are not selected. I guess the bigger name is Matt Toomua. His performance has been underperforming, even in Super Rugby thus far. So I'm not surprised that he wasn't selected. I would be surprised if he was selected. And also there were some talks about linking up Quay Cooper, Samuel Kurevi, and Rory Arnold to bring them back just before the July Test series as well. So there's been some talks about that for the Wallabies side. Obviously, in the Super Rugby, the biggest result, the 2 teams in Australia, Western Force and Fijian Endura, played a really close game on the weekend. Saw the Western Force beating the Enduras in like extra time, just being able to squeeze out that win. Endura had a penalty before where they missed. If they had landed that, would probably close out the game for themselves. So it's really tight game, but this was quite a nice game to watch. Just going into this game though, however, one of the Fijian test cap utility back was sacked due to disciplinary issues. So Valarika was sacked from the team, and the explanation was not revealed, but they basically said that he was doing something that's below the standard of the expectations of the management. So yeah, that's not good. So again, last week those mass rescheduling changes for COVID. All the teams, Blues, Highlands and Crusaders and the Chiefs, were hit with COVID, but the Chiefs were basically able to pitch a team anyway out of the reserve. So they had 19 people that were not available. 19 were not available, and they just basically picked the reserves to play, and was still able to put up a huge performance, record win over the Moana Pacificas. And yeah, this was such a huge result for the Chiefs, despite literally playing reserve grade on the field. And also, Tanela Tupou was cited for a... let's take a quick look at this. Cited for this, bang, this clean out here. Cited for that. He's potentially... So again, this is a issue with the referee on the field. I felt like this should have been addressed on the field. Nick White... and look, Slipper is literally pointing at him. Like, they're literally pointing at him. Slipper is literally pointing at him to tell the referee. That's a cardable offense. It's like a shoulder charge. But the referee did not sanction that on the field, which I thought was pretty poor of the referee, to be honest. And then it's going on to the last few bit of news here. Leicester Tigers was fined $300,000 for breaching the salary cap. They did not get any points deduction. And basically, I think there was a bit of a rule change for salary cap breaches nowadays. It's now like a fine, depends on how much you breach the salary. So essentially it's like 50 cents for every pound over, and then it's like, and then for up to like 200,000, and then it's £1 fine per pound over. So essentially they were over for all these years from 2016 to 2020, and then they were fined £300 according to the calculation, and they were basically doing something that was paying players for like the image rights through a third-party company that was not disclosed in their financial reports, essentially. And yeah, that's a bit of cheating, I guess. And also in the Premier League Rugby, they're going to add like a chip into the balls now. So now going to have a computer chip tracking the ball movements and allowed to have like computer generated image to show the ball movements and give you extra stats on how the ball has traveled throughout the game. That will be something very interesting to see. But yeah, this will be introduced in Premiership Rugby in England. Finally, some really, really sad news. Federico Aramburu, a Argentinian player, 42 years old from decades ago. He was shot dead in France. Yeah. So basically, there was some kind of like a disagreement after a party, and then one of the parties left and came back and shot him, drive-by shoot him and killed him. So yeah, this was I thought this was a bit bit tough to read. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching this news. I do really appreciate it. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. I'll see you guys. So no more Six Nations this weekend, but I'll see you guys for the Super Rugby reviews. That'll be on. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Have a nice weekend. Cheers. Oh, nice week.